Hi there, this is Sata, and welcome to the TNAIW Go Power Rankings show. As always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts. First, to my right, he allegedly has no relation to our former Impact World Champion, Steve Macklin, the star of the show, the one and only Burt Macklin.
I feel like every time she says former world champion, just like a little bit of Burt dies inside.
Well, he is a former world champion. What am I just supposed to introduce him as? Steve Macklin?
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Burt Macklin.
I'll just say hi, everyone. It's still low for me, so get to introducing our other host.
And to my left, he is a star. To my left, he is the godfather of the Power Rankings, the one and only Lucha.
Yeah.
Alrighty then, you guys. We had one hell of a crazy show on Impact, if you ask me. That opening segment and the main event, I definitely expect to see where everybody from the main event lands. And, Nick Aldis turning heel. Very curious to see where he lands on this week's Power Rankings. But, Burt, who do you think made this week's Power Rankings?
Well, I want to see me some Rich Swann, because I think we're on that Rich Swann rebuilding tour, Rich Swann 2.0. He got a big win against Moose, a former world champion. A former world champion getting a win over a former world champion. That shouldn't go unnoticed. Also, I would expect to see, the normal people we see out there, the world champions, the champions, just because they're champions for a reason, so they should be on the countdown in some form.
I definitely do agree. What about you, Lucha? Who do you expect to see on this week's Power Rankings?
Well, I mean, obviously, we expect to see the greatest faction in Power Rankings history, but I'm interested to see who's going to take that number 2 spot coming out of that freaking all-star 5-on-5 tag match we had.
I definitely do agree. I mean, that 5-on-5 star match is going to play a huge factor in this week's Power Rankings. I know that for a fact. Well, with that being said, let's play these Power Rankings. Number 10, Heath. Number 9, Steve Macklin. Number 8, Moose. Number 7, Trey Miguel. Number 6, Rich Swann. Number 5, number 1 contender, Trinity. Number 4, tag team champions, ABC. Number 3, number 1 contender, Nick Aldis. Number 2, world champion, Deonna Purrazzo. Number 1, Motor City Machine Guns. Wow. Very interesting Power Rankings this week. I'm not surprised at who's number 1. But let's start with this. So looking at the Power Rankings, did you know Trinity and ABC only had a 1-point difference? ABC had 44 points and Trinity had 43 points. I think that's worth talking about. Why do you guys think that is? Lucha, you can go first.
I know I personally contributed to said thing because I put ABC 4 and Trinity 5 pretty much how they landed. So I was a contributor in that. Also, they're the champs, baby. Like, at the end of the day, that's going to help you more than anything on the Power Rankings is having the strap.
What about you, Burt? Trinity coming in at number 5, ABC coming in at number 4, but ABC getting 1 point more than Trinity.
That's interesting. I had ABC 3 and Trinity 4. So I get, and again, I had ABC 3 just because I think quietly they're the most dominant champions we have so far, just in combined strength of like how long they've had it at this point, And then just the defenses they're racking up against, a pretty stacked division. I'm not saying they're a Deanna, but I'm saying that, like, quietly they're putting together a nice little run as first-time tag champs.
I think Joe Hendry is the only champion that's had the belts longer.
And like I said, I think the defenses that ABC have had, if you stack them up against Joe Henry's opponents, I think ABC would have to win. Subculture, the Machine Guns. I think they beat Decatur on Thursday, right?
Yeah, and that was a quick match.
Yeah. So, again, yeah. And then Trinity at number 4, I just think that as in terms of the 2 number 1 contenders, her feud and her as a wrestler are just more interesting than Nick Aldis at this point. I just think Nick Aldis we've seen that Trinity's fresh, not just, she's never been in Impact before this. So, you know what I mean? That's always going to get more interest, I think, from fans, so, and me included. So, I both their spots, I think, are I agree with both of them. You could switch them, and I'd be fine. So.
All right. An interesting thing here is number 8 Moose, number 7 Trey Miguel. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't both Moose and Trey Miguel lose their matches? Yet Trey Miguel comes in at number 7 and Moose came in, who actually just re-signed with Impact Wrestling, coming in at number 8. So that's interesting. Why do you guys think that is? Burt, I'll let you go first since this is regarding Trey Miguel.
Well, first of all, Trey Miguel's where he's at because even though it was like 15 seconds, that promo he was cutting was money. Did you hear dollar signs? Did you hear the cash register just ringing?
Yes, I did.
And then Moose, even though he lost, I think, like, in terms of, like, I can't think of somebody who, because usually when somebody loses a world championship, they're not going to, like, put him right back in, like, being, like, super dominant. But at the same time, like, I think Moose has been booked really well where it's not like you forgot that he was a world champion. You know what I mean? Every match he still looks like the dominant world champion that he was, even though he's not world champion right now. So I'm fine with Moose being...
It was number 8.
Yeah, even though he lost. And I believe he lost to a former world champion, Rich Swann. So it's like, again, it wasn't like he lost to some enhancement talent. You know what I mean? He still looked like Moose to me. And as you mentioned, he re-signed. So, congratulations. I'm glad Impact was able to keep one of their stars. A foundation piece.
Lucha, what are your thoughts on that? 7 and 7 Trey Miguel, Moose number 8.
I'm conflicted because, like, I guess, the fight Moose gave in his match against Rich, it was a very valiant effort. So, you can't necessarily not give him respect on that end. But I'm also like, he did lose, and I'm pretty sure Heath got a win, or at the very least came out, on the opposite side of Impact, on the up versus the down, like unlike Moose. So I'm just trying to figure out how necessarily Moose leapfrog Heath is where I'm kind of, messed up in the head at. Rich Swann being at 6, that's fine that's where he should be, right outside the top 10, because he's, like y'all say, kind of on an incline, and who knows what's next for Rich. But it's just that Moose being ahead of Heath is where I'm confused.
And interesting that you bring up Rich Swann, because Rich Swann did come in at number 6. He's ahead of Moose and Trey Miguel. And Rich Swann beat Moose. And Rich Swann is a former Impact World Champion, but yet he's ahead of Trey Miguel, who was having one hell of a run as X Division champion.
He may have been having a one hell of a run as the champion, but the committee has proven in the past that they really weren't that impressed with his generational talent.
That's true. That's true.
He was ranked lower or higher, whichever one's worse, as the champion. My man's coming in ranked 8th and 9th and 10th with the belt. Yet here he is at 7, and he was a part of the losing squad.
And as far as Rich being number 6, he went out and took that spot. He beat a former world champion and someone who is in the rankings. So, I have no problem with Rich being number 6.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Heath, who came in at number 10, just cut a backstage promo explaining why he went after Shira and Champagne Singh?
While that was a really good promo. A little long for me. He pretty much recapped his entire history with Rhino and the company. He gave you like every single time. He didn't need to go back that far. But again, it was probably the best promo he's cut in Impact. So, and I like this. The main event, the upper mid card main event scene always needs more depth. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. And let me ask Lucha this real quick. Lucha, would you switch Heath and Moose? So 8 and 10.
Based off how they were looking on the opposite side of the episode, with Heath having more positive momentum than Moose. Yeah.
Okay. I would be fine with that.
Let's talk about number 9. Steve Maclin coming in at number 9. And as we found out at Slammiversary, it's going to be Steve Maclin and Bully Ray versus Scott D'Amore and PCO. I'd say this is a very interesting spot for him, especially because just lost a world title, and to see him at number 9, I feel some type of way. Burt, I'll let you take this one first.
I'm going to spin it in the fact that he didn't have a match. He just cut a promo. And I think that was one of his best promos. And I think that this could be a way to maybe the people to see that, like, because I think Steve Maclin still hasn't snapped yet. And I think that could be his way back into the main event scene and becoming a 2-time champ. And maybe convincing people, because there were a lot of people who weren't sold on Steve Maclin as champ. So again, like I just said, he didn't even have a match. He cut a promo and he was able to crack the top 10. So I think that just goes to show you the power of the promo. If it's good,
I definitely do agree.
You don't have to have a match, and not everyone can have a match on Impact. So you have to do what you can to stick out.
That is true, as we've seen Nick Aldis and Frankie Kazarian making the power rankings a few weeks back just by talking. Lucha, what are your thoughts on Steve Maclin coming in at number 9?
Burt, to kind of sort of use your same logic, but argue that the wrong person is on the top 10 here, you got to think about it. Yeah, the promo he cut was, what it was, but like with my same thing with Moose and Heath, seeing how they were on the other side of the episode, in that segment that Steve Maclin was involved in, he wasn't on the positive side of it. You know what I mean? So I would have made more of an argument for either Scott or PCO to have been in this spot. It's because I was just thinking it's crazy how Steve Maclin is the only person ranked from that segment. So that was just a little funny.
I feel you. I get what you're saying. Because if that were the case, Bully Ray isn't on here and Scott D'Amore isn't on here. So
PCO.
And props to Scott D'Amore for recovering so quickly from getting bully bombed through a flaming table.
Hey, Coach is down the rod, and I love it for him. That's why I can't wait for him to make his Power Rankings debut. I feel like I should have done more to get him on, but I'm trying to hold off until I actually see my man in the ring, because dubs matter to me. So,
all right, coming in at number 3, our number 1 contender, Nick Aldis, who turned heel at the end of the main event by hitting Alex Shelley with the title. Thoughts on Nick Aldis coming in at number 3? Burt, you can go first.
I've actually went first the last couple times. Let's let Lucha take this one.
Oh, Lucha, you can go first.
Cool, because mine's short and sweet. It's cool. It's number 3 is a good spot for him, considering that he's next up for the world title. You know what I'm saying? And he seems to have more momentum going towards his title match versus Trinity at number 5, having momentum going into her title match. So Aldis being ahead of Trinity in that regard makes sense to me. Nick Aldis being at 3 is where he should be. and it's probably where he'll stay until maybe after Slammiversary, once we finally have the match.
Burt, your turn.
Well, first, I actually just want to say I disagree with that. I could see Trinity being higher up until her and Deanna's match, just because I see Nick Aldis not really wrestling that much until his match, mainly cutting promos. Why I could see Trinity having a couple matches on the road to Slammiversary. But with Nick Aldis being number 3, I'm fine with it. I think it was inevitable, his spot and his heel turn. So, again, I think he'll be around this same area up until Slammiversary.
First of all, he's not Ace Austin to be considered inevitable.
That's true.
Oh.
It was more, yeah.
All right. Coming in at number 2, dun dun dun, is our Knockouts champion, Deonna Purrazzo. Long may she reign.
Long may she fucking reign.
Exactly. Lucha, thoughts? Because I know you were the one that was curious about this, Lucha, so you can go first. Thoughts on Deonna Purrazzo coming in at number 2?
Well, I mean, this is where I put her, because I mean, look, at the end of the day, there's just no point in trying to put anyone ahead of the Motor City Machine Guns at number 1, just because of the belt collection that the squad is holding down. Like, it's hard for that to not be number 1. So for this current moment, number 2 is kind of Deanna's ceiling, at least until Slammiversary. And then also I was kind of thinking to kind of connect her and Trinity together, because I'm trying to think of the road, and at the moment, it does kind of seem that Deonna and Trinity are playing we can coexist, homegirl, all this love. So there might be a lot of tag matches with the two in the coming weeks. So their success is going to be piggybacking off of each other, and it'll just be interesting to see who's going to be pulling the weight.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be interesting to see. So, very curious. Burt, your thoughts?
Well, I don't think it's impossible for her to reach number 1. I think there's weeks it could happen. But yeah, for this week, yeah, I figured she'd be number 2 this week, just because both her and the Machine Guns were involved in a match. So
hell, and Aldis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And Aldis. All right, but before we reveal number 1, even though I think we all know who number 1 is, let's talk about who almost made this week's power rankings. You guys ready for this?
Uh-huh.
This is about to be mad controversial.
Well, like Eric Bischoff once said, controversy creates cash. Okay. Heath came in at number 10 with 10 points. I mean, with 8 points, my bad. So after 8, we actually have a tie for number 11. We have a tie at number 11. Giselle Shaw and Joe Henry coming in with 6 points. Then we have Kazarian, Kenny K, and G King, The Coven, and Scott D'Amore all coming in with 5 points. So because we can't have ties among all of those, who would you guys put as 11, 12, and 13?
I'm putting Kenny King at 11 just because his promo was even more money than Trey's. And I hope that I would like a faction right there with Kenny, Trey, and Sheldon Jean. I just saw something right there. I saw potential. And Kenny, I don't remember the last time Kenny King cut a bad promo. So I think it should be a clear him at number 11.
What about you, Lucha? Who do you say comes in at number 11?
252 pounds of pure motivation comes in at number 11 just because it's a DMC. You know what I'm saying? You got to give love to the belt, to the champ. And number 12, I'm going to kind of go off the road a little bit, and I'm still giving love to OVE. And I would have put them at number 12 if we have to. Honestly, I voted them at number 6. Just because of home field advantage. As long as they're in Ohio, this Ohio shit will not die.
Scott D'Amore is on here twice. He's in here as Scott D'Amore and Scott of Viamore. And it's
Well-
funny because Scott Damore has 5 points and Scott Damore has 4 points.
That might be
So
my
Scott
question.
Demore actually has 9 points. So then wouldn't that make him the actual number 10? So
I
doesn't
don't
Scott
know.
make it?
I don't know, cause see, like, I don't know if this was like a typo on Burt or if this, cause look right here it says Scott. I don't know if you guys can see that. It says Scott Damore and then
Yeah.
Scott Dam. So I don't know.
So we gotta figure this out. We gotta figure this out before we get off air. We gotta clear up any controversies. First ever live recount on the power rankings.
Yes, first ever live recount, you guys.
Oh shit! See, y'all are in for history here.
Okay, so on looking over the power rankings because they're not in order. They're not in order, but at the and Giselle Shaw's on here twice too.
Hey,
She has 8 points.
Since they're a unit, wouldn't they technically be together too on the machine gun rule?
Who?
Giselle Shaw and Scott Demore.
They're a power couple. Okay, so let's figure this out. So there's Scott Demore with 4 points, and then there's Scott Moore.
No, someone just spelled the name wrong. I don't think it's anything other than that.
So what do we give Scott Demore? Is it 4 points, or is it 9 points, or is it just 5 points?
I'd give them both. Combine them.
And Giselle Shaw is on here twice. She has 8 points.
So then that would still put her off the top 10, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would, because Steve Macklin came in at number 10, so she still didn't make.
No, Heath was at number 10.
Oh, she would tie with Heath then.
So then we would have to do a tie break between Heath and
Giselle would have 8, and then Scott Demore would have 9.
So then that bumps Heath off and puts Scott Demore at number 10. Beautiful. So our new number 10.
Our Impact president, Scott Demore.
Let's go.
Number 10, Impact president, Scott Demore. Number 9, Steve Macklin. Number 8, Moose. Number 7, Trey Miguel. Number 6, Rich Swann. Number 5, number 1 contender Trinity. Number 4, tag team champions ABC. Number 3, number 1 contender Nick Aldis. Number 2, world champion Deonna Purrazzo. Number 1, Motor City Machine Guns. Yes, Scott Demore made number 10. And you know something? I think he deserves it. I mean, homeboy got put through a burning table, came back in 2 weeks, and now he's having a match at Slammiversary. His first match since
June 18th, 2006 at Slammiversary. Crazy. Scott Demore teamed with Bobby Roode to take on Rhino in a handicap match.
Wow. So
and
he's
Rhino
coming back.
And Rhino won that handicap match. 17 years later, he makes his Slammiversary return to his hometown for this tag match.
What are your thoughts on Scott Demore actually coming in at number 10 over Heath, Lucha?
Because this is what the Diamond Villains do, bro.
Burt, what are your thoughts on Scott Demore actually being the one to come in at number 10 and not Heath?
We definitely earned it, putting his body through it, so I don't think anyone can argue with it at this point.
Yeah, no, I definitely think he did earn it. Wow, imagine if we would have never done this segment, we would have never figured out that Scott Demore made the power rankings.
How are we going to screw the president of the company out of his spot in the power ranking?
I don't know. I guess because of a misspelled name, we almost did. Alrighty, I don't think it's any surprise or a shocker. Coming in at number 1, not only is this tag team our X Division champion, but they're also our Impact World champion. The Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. No surprise here. But I do expect them to continue to be number 1 for the foreseeable future until one or both of them drop the belts. Burt?
That's the key. I do think that, yeah, congratulations to them. They definitely have a lock on the number 1 spot on most weeks. It will take like either them not wrestling or maybe like wrestling as a tag team and losing for them not to be the number one spot. Yeah, I don't, and I do think, just maybe to jump in, I do think that one of them will lose the belt, obviously, before. I don't see them both losing on the same night. So, but yeah, as of right now, they control the number one. They control the power rankings.
Yeah. So no surprise there, honestly. But Lucha, what are your thoughts on the Motor City Machine Guns being number one?
You know, at least until Slammiversary, they're pretty much a lock for number one. It's Slammiversary where things can kind of go crazy because there is a universe where even if both of them win, hold on to the belts or whatever, if Deonna actually beats Trinity, that could give her a case to honestly leapfrog the Machine Guns. Based off of their interaction backstage, like say the Machine Guns do hold these belts past Slammiversary, but also ABC holds the belts past Slammiversary, and then there's a point to where we meet again, and maybe we do ABC versus Machine Guns for all the gold.
Winner take all?
Yeah, and then, maybe that universe, there could be a number one that's not the Machine Guns. So there's a chance that the Machine Guns won't be number one, but it's going to take some stuff like that for that to happen.
What if, like, let's say at Slammiversary, Alex Shelley versus Nick Aldis doesn't main event and Trinity versus Deonna does? Where do you see that happening?
Honestly, that it depends on who wins. If Trinity beats Deonna, I don't necessarily know if that would be enough to put her at number one, which is crazy because she would be winning the belt. But Deonna's just been on this crazy run. So Deonna getting this statement win, Deonna's win would mean more in the power rankings over Trinity's win.
I do agree because, like, she's a virtuosa and this is her third title reign as Knockouts champion. So I definitely do agree.
The power rankings rewards, the power rankings committee rewards dominance and talking.
They do because look how many people made the power rankings in prior episodes over just simply talking.
I could see, though, at Slammiversary, especially if we get some type of special attraction X Division match and Chris Sabin retains his belt and Shelley retains his belt, even if those two matches aren't in the main event, I could see them still be number one, even if Deonna retains, just because the X Division match is usually the showstopper, and if it is some sort of Ultimate X match or something like that, again, it's going to be hard to stop them from taking number one.
That's true. I agree, Burt. I agree 100%. But all right, I think we've covered all our numbers 10 and 1. Again, apologies to Scott D'Amore for almost leaving him off the power rankings. Thank God we caught that little error.
It's time for the new segment, though, where we talk about the match with the most power rankings implications next week.
Yes, definitely. Lucha, what match do you think has the biggest implication for the power rankings next week?
The match with the biggest impact on the power rankings? It's a good question. Hey, Burt, you got the card?
We got OBE versus Myers in the Good Hands. We got the Design versus Gresham and Speedball. Taylor Wilde versus Killer Kelly. Bully Ray and Macklin versus Kazarian and Eddie Edwards. And then we got Bhupender's Diary.
That Gresham and Speedball tag match is kind of, dancing at me a little bit. But also the team of Frankie Kazarian and Eddie Edwards, like, I'm looking at their match particularly. If they get the win, because I had Frankie at number 9 on mine personally. I don't know where you had him on yours, Burt, but I feel like it'll kind of be on Frankie's on revenge tour. Frankie would know I'm saying this if he would unblock me on Twitter. But I'm looking at Frankie and Eddie, and especially to see how how long they stay attached to each other. Also, Killer Kelly versus who's Killer Kelly's opponent?
Taylor Wilde.
That one is what I'm going with, simply because Taylor Wilde is half of the Knockouts Tag Team Championships.
Lucha, sorry, yeah, can finish.
That's it. Gold.
That's what I was going to say. That is the only choice, and I'll tell you why. What champion didn't make the top 10 this week?
The Coven.
And Joe Hendry.
But we're specifically talking about the Coven. Do you know that the Coven, the only points they got, they didn't get one single vote. So that match has the most implications purely because it's going to make or break either seeing the Knockouts tag team chance on the countdown or not. Because if Killer Kelly wins, I don't think we're going to see the Coven. So Taylor Wilde winning is their only chance of making the top 10 next week. So I think that for that reason, that's why it has the most implications.
Taylor Wilde does have a lot of weight on her shoulders.
Because if you look at the other matches, just like you said, like OVE have a chance to make it just because they're really hot. They're fan favorites right now. You know what I mean?
This Ohio shit is real. So
and then the Coven, they don't seem to be on anyone's radar right now. And then you look at everyone else that are on the match. Speedball and Gresham are Power Rankings committee member favorites. So it's going to be hard. Taylor Wilde has to pull out a win next week, or I don't think we'll see the Coven on there. And again, I don't know if that's because Killer Kelly seems to be on a roll right now in her own right. So,
and I do agree with you guys. Taylor Wilde versus Killer Kelly has the biggest implications because, like Burt brought up, they didn't even make this week's Power Rankings. And if Killer Kelly beats Taylor Wilde, I don't think they will make it. Not only that, but I think that if Killer Kelly beats Taylor Wilde, she might need a certain redhead to team with her to take those Knockouts titles off the Coven. So I definitely agree. Taylor Wilde versus Killer Kelly has the biggest implications.
I also want to bring attention to the digital exclusive match of the week, Yuya Uemura versus Sheldon Jean.
Oh.
And then also BTI for this week, we have Nevaeh versus Jody Threat.
Can I take a guess as who won?
I mean,
I'd say Sheldon Jean defeated Yuya, and then Jody Threat defeated Nevaeh.
Well, in order to at least find out the Knockouts match, you'd have to do the one thing you don't do, and that's watch BTI.
But then I'd have to. Oh. There's so much wrestling on. Like, I'm already watching 12 hours of wrestling this week, okay?
Yo, I will say this. If Collision is what this past week was every week, I'm with it.
And I will say this. If it comes to it, I will definitely stop watching Rampage because it's just an hour and sometimes it's wah, wah, wah.
I used to be able to watch Rampage, and then the matches became predictable and unimportant, and then Dynamite was just too much bullshit, and they got rid of fucking Dark and Elevation, so I couldn't really watch like the up and comers, and I'm not watching Ring of Honor, so
yeah. And I already watch I watch if I like people try to get me to watch NXT, and it's not that anything against NXT. It's just like I already watched before Collision. I already watched 5 days of wrestling as it is, like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Actually, no, 4 days. So if I watched NXT, I'd be getting a full week of pure wrestling, and like I need time to myself. I do. So it's like I have to pick and choose. I either stop watching Impact or I watch NXT. And, I watched Impact literally as I was getting ready to go to Mexico. Hell, on the way back to LA, I finished watching the main event because literally I saw the whole episode except the main event because I had to go to bed. So, like, I watched the main event on the way back to LA.
Word
To your mother. Ice, baby. All right, well, that about wraps everything up. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Your support means the entire world to us. We wouldn't be doing this without you guys. And of course, as always, thank you to Jeff for giving us this opportunity. And make sure you guys hit that bell and don't forget to like and subscribe so that you get notified not only when this video drops, but whenever TNAIW releases new video content such as Lucha.
Well, the Ryder Cup was such a big success. Ladies and gentlemen, coming up, we have recently announced the Athena Cup, named after not Athena, formerly known as Ember Moon, but TNA Asylum legend Athena. You got to go back and watch like the first 5 weeks of NWA TNA to really know who this lady is. But this cup is for her, and we're starting next week, and then we got the play-in polls coming. In the first group, Giselle Shaw, Masha Slamovich, Trinity, and Tasha Steeles. The next group, Ali, Chelsea Green, Mia Yim, Sienna. Next group, Brooke Tessmacher, Maria Kanellis Bennett, Taryn Terrell, Velvet Sky. And then the final group, the Undead Realm, Jessica, because she's sick, Sue Young, Taylor Wilde, and Winter. So you guys go check those polls out at TNAIW channel. Make your voices heard on who you want to see win those play-ins so they can get in this prestigious Knockouts tournament. The crown the Knockouts champion.
Can I make a prediction who I think's winning?
Winning the whole shebangy bang?
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Did you say Gail Kim? Was she on there?
Gail Kim will be one of the ones in the tournament. Yes, she's already an established person in the tournament, so she will be.
And will Madison Rain be on there?
Madison Rain will also be in the tournament.
So I don't think one of them. I'm picking one. I'm going with chalk on this one. I think either one of them are winning. Two legends. Gail Kim being the best knockout of all time, in my opinion.
I agree with Burt.
Well, there's only one way to find out, and y'all gotta tune in to TNA 2K Wednesdays. Next week, we're starting with some round one matchups, so stay tuned to the Twitter to figure out what those matchups are and what's going down.
Yep, and with that being said, you guys, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.